In this video, we're going to take a look at how to add a user. So first, make sure that you're in the admin console, then click Add a User. In this section, you'll be able to add all of the information that will then add the user to the system. You have a lot of options, so we'll talk through some of those as we look at this procedure. So first, you'll look at the name section, so you're going to designate the name of the individual. Next, you're going to select a user type and add an email address. And as you'll notice, those items are required. They have an asterisk next to them. A first name and a last name, that does not have to be unique within a system. So if you have 3 John Smiths, that's fine. That's not a problem. However, they must all have unique email addresses. So that's one of the things that keeps those single users when they're added, or any user for that matter when they're added, is that they must be unique in some way, and that's one of the ways that they must be unique. So you will have to add in a unique email address. You'll also need to designate a username unless you allow the system to auto-generate it, which we'll talk about. You can add a password in, so if you're setting generic passwords for everyone, you can add that in, or again, you can allow the system to auto-generate. And an external ID. This is not necessary to add an external ID because the system will generate one as it goes along. However, if you are connecting to another student information system, you may have an ID already for this individual, so you may want to add that. If you don't have it at the time, it's okay. You can always go back and change it, but it's something to think about, is just having all that information available to you as you begin. So let's go ahead and add in an individual, and we can take a look at that information. So first, I'm going to enter the name. And then I'm going to select the user type. In this case, I have 2 choices, instructor or staff. Instructor is an individual, when they're added, they're going to be able to be assigned to teach a course. If you don't add them as an instructor, they cannot be assigned to teach a course. So think about that when you're adding folks, what you want them to be. A staff member will be able to do staff items, like they can be an administrator, they can do other things, but they will never be able to be assigned to teach a course. So in this case, I'm going to assign this person as an instructor. And if I want to add in a title, I can, but it's not necessary. I can also, at this point, add a file for a picture. Now you'll notice that until I selected instructor, that option was not available. If I do choose to add the picture, I can choose the file, and then once I've chosen it, I can resize it and add it in there. Now really the only reason you would do this is if you wanted to designate it ahead of time for someone, but they can always do it themselves. And you notice, like up here with my picture, that picture was added at the time that my account was set up, but if I hadn't added it, it would just be a generic placeholder until I did. But that's where this is one of the places where that picture will show up. Next, I need to put in that generic email address, the specific email address for this individual. Now you'll notice that this is a Gmail account, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be any specific type of account, just as long as, again, it's individual and it's unique. Now I can designate a username if I want to, or again, allow the system to generate it. In this case, I'm going to set the username. And next, I can set the password. However, in this case, I would like for the system to generate that password. So I'm going to go down, and instead of entering something, I'm going to check auto-generate. And you'll notice that this goes gray. I can no longer put anything into that field. External ID, I don't need to designate an external ID. This individual doesn't have one. So the system will do that on its own, and you'll notice again, because it doesn't have that asterisk, I do not have to enter anything. Then we have a section on role. Now this is where it gets a little bit more interesting as far as what that person can do relative to their user type. So someone who has the instructor user type can do these different roles. So there's a registrar role, an admin role, which is like what you're seeing here, where what I can do anything in the system. A survey user, all that person can do is look at surveys. Proxy Admin, that allows them to proxy into an account, which basically means that they can look at an account just as the user can. It helps to figure out information or problems that may be occurring. Designer Admin, as in someone who's a designer and they need to be able to see all of the items that are in the design section. Course Designer, which would just be designing with the courses where you'd get just this design tab, and then HR. We'll talk about these and what they can actually see in a later one. I just want to let you know that those roles are there. So for this individual, I'm only going to give them Course Designer access. So to do that, I would just select one of those. And then if I've done everything I needed to do, which was again add the first name, last name, select a type, an email address, and add a username. And as long as that username doesn't conflict with anybody else, and as long as this email doesn't conflict, when I click Add User, I will complete the process. So I'll click Add User, and you can see the user's been added. The username is WebCurB, and it actually does tell me the password. And you might think, well, why do I need to know the password? What I often will do is I will hold on to that for a short period of time until I confirm that the person that I added was able to get into the system. Now, when you're adding a whole lot of people, that may be cumbersome, but I'm only adding a few people at a time, so I can do that and then provide that customer service to them. So what I'm going to do is copy this, and I'll just put it on a file over here that you can't see. That way we'll be able to go and look at it here in just a minute, if we need to. So now I have that information saved, and that will be useful to me again if I need to provide that customer service later on. I can do that. So what does that mean? Well, that basically means that we've added somebody to the system and they are there. If you want to confirm that they're there, you can go to the Edit Existing User section. Begin to slowly type the name that you just added. As you can see, it pops up. I can click on that, click on Search, and I can verify that that individual has been added. So you've just seen how to add a user, how to verify that they've been added, and some of the options that you have for adding a user.